Today I made $4,000 day trading, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly what I did to make this money, step-by-step breakdown. So welcome to the channel if you're new. Today's video we're going to be going over the trades that I took, and today's date is May 15th. I'm currently recording this video at night, but as you can see at my P&L, the P&L total was about $4,155. Today I traded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different stocks. The strategy, the methodology that I trade, I do not believe in only taking one trade a day. I take countless of trades. I actually took about 500 different trades today, scalps as well as chart trades. So I was in some trades for a while, some trades I was in only within seconds. So most of these stocks, as you can see, the parentheses stand for losing trades. The ones without parentheses stand for winners. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 losers, and I had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 winners. So 8 losers, 5 winners. The total P&L was a little over $4,000. And most of the losers, as you can see, my biggest loser was about $200, which honestly I'm pretty upset about. And the main winner was about $4,000 and $500. So I'm going to go break down my biggest winner today. I'm going to give you an exact breakdown of what I did to make this money. So remember, I trade stocks that gap in price overnight. I do not trade options. I do not trade futures. I do not trade Forex. I trade shares of stocks. Now, the main winner today was the NFE. This is the symbol, New Fortress Energy. This stock ended up gapping in price overnight. Right here, I'm looking at the daily chart. So before the market even opened, I noticed that this stock was gapping down in price. The reason it was gapping down was some sort of news, earnings. Honestly, I don't even care. There was some sort of news that created a lot of investors to sell this stock pre or post market on Thursday, and this thing ended up gapping down. So I don't really care why it happened. All I care about is where it gapped to on the chart. So before the market even noticed, I saw that this stock was gapping down to $4.21 roughly. So it was gapping to around here. Obviously the candlestick has already formed, so you're seeing the gap after, right? We see what it did throughout the day, but in the morning I only saw that it was gapping down to this price level. And what does this gap tell me? First of all, this gap is clearing support. It's clearing almost the lows. So whenever a stock clears the lows, it clears a lot of level of buying. Remember, what is support? Support is not just a line where price tends to bounce off of. A support is basically an area that we notice that whenever price touches that area, buyers tend to step up and win the battle. Buyers are very strong at this level. So when we noticed price has been consolidating, and the reason it hasn't been moving lower was because there's a level of buyers holding up this area. However, we gap down below this level of buying, which means that the sellers have won the battle. So that's step one of identifying if a gap is good quality. We noticed that the buyers have lost the battle because it was gapping down below support. So I already had a mental bias that this thing was going to drop. Another thing is that it's been trending higher over the past few days, over the past few weeks, and it has been trending higher. What does that tell us? All these people, there's a lot of people who bought into the stock. Traders, investors, swing traders, a lot of people were buying into the stock. Now imagine how they were feeling when the stock is gapping down to this area of price. Anyone who was in it as a long woke up this morning and noticed that the stock, that their trade, that their portfolio is now down. They're underwater all of a sudden. What does this do? It creates shock value. They feel fear. And just looking at the stock where it was gapping down to in the morning, I already was imagining what these other traders are feeling. I don't trade any crazy manipulation, fair value ups. No, I'm just trading human psychology. So based off of this overnight gap, I was able to see it was gapping down below level of support, which means the sellers won the battle. And I can imagine all these traders who were trapped and saw their position in the morning were probably feeling fear. And this made me believe that the stock was going to drop in price overnight. Now, I already have a short bias because of the gap. Now let's look at the smaller time frame. So right here is the 1 minute chart, 2 minute, 5 minute, and 15 minute. I ended up making $4,000 on this trade, but it was actually multiple trades. Right off the open, literally 1 minute into the market open, I always look at the 1 minute chart. I don't even care about the 5 and the 15 because there's not enough information to help me make a decision. So I'm looking at the 1 minute, I'm looking at the 2 minute. right off the open, I noticed on the smaller time frames that this stock was setting up. It was also showing setting up on level 2 order flow, and I saw there was a lot more selling than buying, which I can make a video on separately. If you guys comment down below, let me know if you guys want to see a video on that specifically. But I played this setup as something called the high-low pattern. It's a very aggressive trade. I'm gonna remove this drawing for now, but it's a very aggressive trade. I'm basically playing the gap because I was so bearish, because I believe this stock had a very bearish gap down. I literally entered this trade 1 minute in. My entry was below the first candlestick, the lows of the first candlestick. My stop loss was the highs of that first candlestick. Extremely aggressive play. And I got in around 405, 403. My stop loss was at around 430. So about a 30-cent stop. I hopped in right off the open, and this thing immediately just dropped. It went from 404 all the way down to about 310 on the first move. Now, on this first drop, I ended up doing 1 minute bar by bar management, which basically just means I lowered my stop because I was shorting it. I lowered my stop to the highs of the next bar. So I lowered my stop to here, lowered my stop to here, lowered my stop to here. I lowered my stop to here. I lowered my stop again. So I just kept lowering the stop to the highs of the next bar. And then I lowered my stop to here. And that ended up trailing me out when this bar formed and moved up. I got trailed out around 326. So I caught a move from about 403 to 326. I had small size. I was undersized because it was right off the open, but immediately made some money. And I actually flipped this play as a long. I killed it, and because it dropped so much, because it was so extended and it had a huge volume spike, I actually played this as a long. I got in as a scalp. As I killed it, I hopped in long at around 326 and ended up popping. And it actually got halted, which means it was moving so much that they literally stopped trading for the stock for a few minutes. It gapped up in price. I ended up killing some right as it gapped up, and literally about 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the market open, I was up around $1,700 on this trade. Now, later on in the day, I actually tried playing it again. I lost some money. I missed this move lower, completely missed it. But I hopped in a few times as a long here and there. I caught this as a long scalping level 2 order flow. I just saw that it was extremely bullish. If we look on the larger time frames at this point, I noticed it dropped, popped, dropped. I saw a huge volume spike, and then I ended up scalping this move higher. I ended up scalping this move lower. So the first play was a chart trade, just held it, got in and just held it. And then after that, I was scalping it here and there. And then later in the day for a finale, I noticed that there was a base breakdown setup. So I entered as a base breakdown around, this was my entry. Actually, it was at 245, I remember, under the lows of the day. So I entered, I had my entry under 245. I had a very tight stop, and I ended up catching this move lower. And I did about 2 minute bar by bar, I remember, 2 or 5 minute bar by bar. Yeah, so I caught this move lower. I did 5 minute bar by bar management, which means I lowered my stop to the highs of the previous bar. Because it's later in the day, I start using the larger time frames for my management. Using the 1 minute, and later in the day, there's too much going on. It's too wild. You'd rather use the larger time frames as time goes on. So in the morning, I focus on the 1 minute. As I get more information, I use the larger time frame. So I did 5 minute bar by bar, 5 minute bar by bar. I ended up getting trailed out around 237, and that was basically it. This was an extremely bearish gap. So off the open, I just played the gap. Like the entire idea of playing a setup, I'm not actually playing any setup, right? The setup is just there for risk management purposes, finding an entry, putting a stop in, so I know exactly how much I'm risking. But in reality, my methodology, what I'm doing is I'm playing the gap. Because of where it gapped to on the larger time frame, on the daily chart, because of what I believed that the buyers and investors were feeling, I had the conviction to play this as a short. Then again, I played as a climactic. I scalped it here and there, but really flawless management. Really nice play. A lot of people in my mentorship room and the premium live trading caught this. So this was an amazing play of the day. I also was watching the plug. This is a stock. This is a penny stock I've been scalping a lot here and there. I caught this also in the morning. On the order flow, I noticed there was a lot of selling. So I entered here under 75. I did stop loss above the base. It was a 1, 2, 3 pattern. So go watch my education if you want to learn more about that. about the actual pattern, but I caught this move lower, and then I was just kind of scalping it here and there. I was looking to play this as a short later in the day as a base breakdown at the lows because it was basing at the lows, all-time lows, but ended up not moving. But $500 here, and then that was really it. It was honestly, that was basically it. There was a few other plays that I completely mismanaged and I'm pretty upset about. I lost on some winning trades. For example, the LAZR. I don't even know how I messed this one up. I was a little distracted. But earlier in the morning, I noticed that this thing also had a very, it was setting up, it was basing. And then this play on the laser, I ended up losing. It was penny basing and I missed this drop completely. A lot of the times whenever stock moves sideways, I always tell you guys this, whenever stock is basing, which means it's consolidating, it's moving sideways and it has a very tight base, the longer that it does that for, it's almost like a rubber band getting pulled. And once it breaks down, it usually has a huge move. So this one, I completely missed out. I ended up getting in late, very sloppy. I was a little distracted, actually. I ended up losing $200. This one should have made me a few $100, honestly. So very sloppy. I mismanaged this one completely. There was also, this was my biggest loser of the day. I also lost $100 on the VNet. This was also a winning play, I believe, that I messed up. The VNet. This thing had a bearish gap down. Now the problem with this thing, it gapped down. The reason it wasn't a great gap is because it was gapping right into that 200 MA, which acts as a level of support. So it gapped down. It didn't really have that shock value, so it wasn't a beautiful gap. I tried playing it a few times as a breakdown. I believe here I entered very sloppy. Got in, killed it, didn't work. So a lot of the stocks that I lost in, the reason was because they didn't really have a good gap or I just misplayed it. But that's really just it for today. There was also a really nice gap on the REE that I completely missed out on. The REE is very similar to the other trade, the NFE. Notice how it gapped down. It didn't actually clear the lows when it was gapped down, but cleared a lot of support. And very similar to the NFE. A lot of people bought in, and look, notice how it gapped down. A lot of people bought in the past few weeks, few days, and now they woke up, they saw the gap, it was gapping down below all this price action. That means they woke up and they saw their account was down. Fear, and that caused the selling. So we're playing psychology. This thing ended up dropping basically all day. So huge miss on my end, but I was focused on something else. But amazing play, wish I could have caught. There was also a few other stocks. The BHVN dropped off the open. There was there was a bunch of other gaps. I think the NTES was a gap up that I just passed on. It's cleared a bunch of resistance, so it's the opposite of the gap downs we just went over. Cleared a bunch of resistance and then trended higher. This one was really nice off the open. So you can see how powerful these gaps are. Pretty amazing. This is a coin I actually took the other day. So yeah, wasn't a great gaps list today. There weren't many, but there were a few. There was the NTES, the NFE, and the REE were the top gaps, and they all worked. So I just missed some of them, but I ended up making 4K today. It honestly could have been like a 5, 6, 7K day if I was just a little bit sharper. But yeah, those were the trades I took today, just playing the gaps. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Here's just a little recap for you. If you guys want, make sure to comment down below any questions you have. And if you guys want to come actually see me do this live, you can come trade live with me 7 days for free. Just watch me trade live. Follow along if you're interested in learning more about this. So the link to that will be in the description below. But overall, thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys learned something. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next recap. Peace.